All right, welcome back to the Great Adventure. We've got Andrew Pudawa back here with me. I'm Evan Smith as always. Good trip?
Very good trip.
Good.
Yes,
good.
and I'm done with travel for the rest of the summer.
Okay,
So
we'll
that's
have you
kind of
here.
kind of
Excellent.
nice to just not have to worry about going anywhere for a while.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Well, our ever popular Flat Andrew um, activity that we're doing all around the world. This time we do have something international for you to look at. This young lady sent in a picture of a trip, and you can kind of look at that first and see.
Jenny
Uh-huh.
from Alberta, or she was
Traveling through.
visiting
That's
Alberta.
right. Drumheller, Alberta.
Drumheller.
And I always like it when you guys actually write a little something about what's going on. Her mom said that she was writing a 5 senses paragraph while they were in the cars they drove.
Oh wow,
So here
that's pretty advanced.
is the experience that she was actually having on this nice serene image.
This looks almost like Nevada,
Uh-huh.
someplace, but of course in the summer Nevada would be just
Desolate.
brown. So I guess it does look like
Right.
Canada.
Right, here, I'll hold that.
So what's the letter here? Today, Mr. Pudawa, we are taking you to Drumheller. I gobbled down a burger at lunch. We are traveling to my aunt's wedding, which is
I think navy. Yeah.
navy?
Navy and sage theme.
Navy. Oh, probably navy blue.
Right.
Navy and sage theme.
Yeah. Lovely.
I guess I'm a little bit blue there too. Not quite navy, but we spotted a bald eagle on the way. Interestingly, I smelled the smell of burgers as I wrote this paragraph because, as you might know, we ate burgers. Constantly, we heard the car humming. Oh, and I am obsessed with dinosaurs.
Just to tag that on at the end.
And this was part of, what was this, 12.8?
I think they just had some extra paper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think this was just a fun exercise
Just
for
some
them
extra
to do.
paper. Well, that's very nice.
Yeah. And nice along with what we'll be getting into with Unit 7 today.
What do you think of this design with the coat having a different color between the sleeves? It looks more like a vest there.
I think everyone at the conventions are waiting for you to show up.
But then the lapels come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't even know how you would get an outfit like this
That would be
unless you had a coat that had 2 different colors, which is very uncommon.
quite a tailor. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
keep them coming. IEW.com/flatandrew. Keep reading, keep writing, and enjoy the rest of your summer with that. So
Yeah, someone
that's
should
fun.
get me over to Pakistan or something.
Okay, we'll be watching for that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, hi Sandy. Thanks for coming in again today. If you all have any questions about Unit 6 or as we go Unit 7, any of the stylistic techniques, please drop them in the comment box there. We'll be happy to address them. Someone emailed one before we get back into Unit 6 a little bit. I think this is often on people's mind. Is it allowed to have more than 1 sentence per point in the outline? I am working through the teacher's course and I'm having a difficult time getting all the facts in with a VSS in every paragraph, for example. Is this necessary, or could a 6-point outline paragraph have 8 to 9 sentences? Thank you.
Yes, well, that's a good question. And I think I do say this at some point in the video, but it might not be the Unit 6 section. But I believe I tried to make it clear that there is no correspondence between the number of details in an outline and the number of sentences. So one thing that can happen is you can have a, topic, details, clincher, and then you have fewer sentences than that number. Let's say it was 8 if there were 6 details, because you're combining things, which would be natural with the various dress-ups and openers clauses that would combine ideas. But you can also go the other way and have more sentences. If you have 1 detail, but you want to make it more developed, or in this case, you have a very short sentence, but there's more stuff, sure, you can have 2 sentences off 1 detail.
Sure.
So while sometimes there might be, let's say, topic, 6 details, clincher, 8 sentences, I would say more often than not, there will be fewer or more than 8.
Okay.
And so there's no specific determination in our system ever about number of sentences corresponding with outlines.
Sure, sure. On some of our checklists, we have a minimum sentence requirement,
Right.
and a teacher might have that. But in Unit 7, we won't.
And that kind of thing is optional
Sure,
too.
right,
You
right.
know, it just came up like probably in response to, I have a kid who writes a whole paragraph and it's only 3 sentences long. So, okay, what do? Make a rule. You know, that's what we always do when we have
More.
kids with things we want to adjust and communicate and
Right.
have them do differently.
Guide them through.
Yeah.
Them through. A question that comes up constantly, even though it's well placed within the seminar workbook, and I'll tell you the page where it is. But the invisible who which, which is fun, but how do you indicate the invisible who which?
Well, I have pretty much always said you would underline the word before and the word after, wherever that invisible who which would be. And it's almost always, there are a few exceptions, grammatically I've seen them, but it's almost always replaced by a comma, creating an appositive. In that case, then your underline would go from the word before through the comma all the way to the word after, and that would be the dress up indicator.
We know.
Yeah, so that's the way I would do it.
And it works well.
Sometimes people do ask, well, does the invisible who which count for the who which on the checklist? The answer is yes.
Okay.
At least in my teaching system.
Yeah. Very good. That's how it goes with most of the advanced dress-ups, that's for sure. Page 74 of your seminar workbook is the definitive sample for that. So you can see that in action, but that's the way that one works for you. Karen says, totally off topic. I have a kid that is 15 and I'm making her do the phonetic zoo. Well, see, she's not gotten any wrong. What do I give her after that? Well, that would be a wonderful question for customer service.
It would be.
Maybe one day we'll do an adventure through some phonetic zoo or a
I don't know. Yeah.
spin. But customer service, 800-856-5815, and they will help you along for sure. There you go. Okay. Unit 6. Is there anything in the videos that you can think of that you didn't mention that you would have just loved to put in there? Because I think Unit 6, I think I said Unit 4 would have saved my life. Unit 6, the fused outline, would have made all the difference in my life as a student.
The thing that I say about the mini books, because we're using the elephant mini books, and some people have experience with other sets of mini books that we have had over the years, the goal is not to replace the library. It is to prepare the students for the library. So in the theme-based lesson books and the structure and style for students, we provide source texts, which are similar to the elephant mini books in many ways. And, you know, we just want everyone to know that's not the end. That is the method of getting ready to go and use, you know, real books, online sources, articles from outside the published curriculum. The other question that comes up is occasionally someone will say to me, I putting all this stuff in this paragraph, I feel like it's making it worse. I could probably write a better paragraph if I didn't have to force all this stuff in.
Students will say that.
Yes. So that's the point where we point out that the goal is not to make immediately a better product, but the goal is to cultivate a more skilled writer. So it's not about the writing as much as it's about the writer. And, you know, it's a little bit like, what would you say, running with weights or scales, etudes, exercises. We've used that metaphor many times. It's, you know, it's, you don't run with weights so that you can go race with weights on. You run with weights so that when you take them off, it's easier. So that's the same thing about our stylistic techniques. If they feel a little bit cumbersome or burdensome from time to time, that's okay. Because eventually it will get easier and easier, and there won't be that same type of complaint or frustration. And then, as I say in the TWSS section on style, the goal is to graduate from the checklist.
Right.
So if you can do everything on the checklist and make it look easy, well, now you graduated. So now you can use or not use the things on the checklist as opportunity or need presents itself down the line.
Right.
So just kind of keeping that in mind, that this is not a product-based goal. It is a process. And, usually it's adults or students, older students, or kind of your natural writer students who feel like I could do better without the checklist. One time I even did have a student who said that. I said, okay, fair enough. Write one version of it any way you want and write another version of it with all the style techniques. And then she came and goes, yeah, I guess it is better. So
yeah, they write all they want on the side, but this exercise is what it's for. Maybe we can post the process versus product link or podcast. You've talked about that many times. It's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Or I'll send it out in next week's email, because just overall, it's good for approach. So with Unit 6, you had your keyword outline, you had your checklist, and your one paragraph with all of those stylistic techniques, the advanced dress-ups and triples, all the fun stuff was in there. One paragraph, which you'll use again later on, and you're all set.
Here's a funny thing that I noticed in the years that I was traveling around doing this.
Yeah.
Is that the most common topic for men to choose from the available ones was domestication.
Really?
Because that's about catching and training.
Yeah.
And then the most common topic for the women to choose was behavior. And the behavior is the big one.
Yeah.
It's got, I don't know, all 5 mini books had something about behavior.
Right. Yeah.
But I just thought, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Now there is some very interesting stuff. So if you haven't gotten into it yet, it's worth a read, and just the exercise of filling everything out, putting it all together, and do it right, so that you don't have to go back and do it again as you place that into a bigger work that you'll do in a few weeks. But moving on to Unit 7, which finally is inventive writing, which once you called creative writing, or most people would say creative writing. We like to say inventive. You're actually inventorying what you have. You've learned how to bring something in, and now you can draw from that.
Right.
Find it
and the fundamental difference when you say create, it gives this impression that somehow you have to produce something from nothing.
Right.
Whereas invent, coming from the Latin verb invenio, means to find or discover. So that changes the context a little bit. You're trying to find or discover, and you can't really find or discover something that isn't already there.
Right.
So,
right. That's right. So we actually not only get to let students be a little more inventive, do their own thing, but we give you a 5-paragraph model. Here's where it actually happens, where we have the introduction and conclusion that are taught here to be applied even further later on. A lot, especially talking to schools, a lot of times, and just in general, we think, oh, just want to write, be creative. Here's a prompt. Let's go. Schools, especially older students, teachers for high school, they just, we need to write essays. And, the system speaks for itself if they give the time to it. If they start watching, they generally get. But what else is there to say to somebody who just really wants to get to that 5-paragraph? We got to do that right now. What would you say to them other than, well, experience and see, trust the system? Why is it so important to build up to this?
Well, for some children, that many paragraphs in one assignment, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So, if they've done Unit 3 and Unit 5 with 3 paragraphs, then adding the 2 isn't so much more.
Sure.
But a lot of parents and teachers find that, they really do need to divide this into chunks. And I hope, I don't remember exactly, I know we've kind of reinforced it continuously through all the newer materials in SSS, but write from the inside out.
Yes.
So write the body paragraphs first, then the conclusion, and lastly, the introduction. And everything's so much easier.
Revolutionary.
If you do that way.
Yeah. Couldn't have even, seems so simple, but my goodness, it makes all the difference. There is a lot that you talk about in these videos that you watch this week, where adjusting for level. As I said, a lot of the high school level teachers, we need this whole thing right now. You have a great story about the little boy who just couldn't think of anything to write, and finally you got out of him Legos.
Oh,
Legos are the
yes.
thing
Yes,
that he needs.
that's a good story.
And so approach is a huge part of this, and helping them to continue to ask the questions that they've been doing. I saw when we did structure and style for students this in action, especially little boy. You probably remember him. I think he had a little dyslexia as well.
Mhm.
But it was to the benefit of the class to actually ask us, go through the process, spend a little more time. Everybody's paper turned out a lot better. And when you told him good job out there, I just happened to pass by. The kid was walking taller than he ever did, and by the end of the year, it was just incredible. So pacing is what I'm getting to at. Should even with the younger levels, is this a place that is kind of the topping off of the year? Is this a good place where people can feel like it is success, or should they push on a little bit further if at all possible?
It really depends. Our level A materials, the theme-based books and SSS, they end here, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, that's fine. You will see as you do it, the fact that the Unit 8 5-paragraph model, the Unit 7 5-paragraph model are essentially the same model.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, of course, is that most of the details in Unit 8 are coming from a Unit 4, Unit 6 report style of collecting up, organizing, presenting facts. And then with the Unit 7, I think I say in the course with, elementary kids, I start with just one paragraph. So that's the Legos example.
Yeah.
The subject is the topic. There's no division.
Right.
Then with middle school kids, I usually start with 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
So the subject is divided into 2 topics. And then with the high school, I will start with the 5-paragraph, and you get the subject divided into 3 topics, and you also teach the conclusion, introduction, technical side of things. So, but that doesn't mean you can't do the longer or shorter outside that age group. And
Mhm.
that's just kind of the way I do it, because that's my experience of
Right.
where if you have a group of kids where most of them are going to fall and be very comfortable. But if you're teaching a small group or a child one-on-one, and you do a 1 or 2 paragraph Unit 7, and then you want to do more and go past the 2 paragraphs to the 5, you can do that at any age.
Sure.
Yeah. But you kind of do benefit from getting there before you get to Unit 8, which cannot be done without at least 5 paragraphs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. Paulina, I just purchased IW. I'm so excited. My son has dysgraphia, so I'm praying this will help him write. I'm homeschooling him. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
IEW.com/SPED has a ton of other resources for some of those specific needs.
Dyslexia,
So check that out.
dysgraphia,
Yeah, definitely take a
ADD.
look. The writing from the inside out is huge here, as we've talked about, which will continue on as we get into Unit 8 with more formal essay models and everything else. Let's see, the background info is a question that people often ask, and you actually address this when I watched back through.
Mhm.
You have a good point, and I've heard you talk about it many times, but sometimes that question just comes up. I already put it all in the body paragraph. So how can you more eloquently hit that point and fill in those areas of the introduction?
Well, you would, when you're kind of doing the division process,
Mhm.
you would say, okay, here's my subject, here's my 3 topics. Now, is there anything else that's interesting or helping orient the reader toward that? And I think in the My Dog model,
Mhm.
I throw out some thoughts like, when did you get your dog, and where does he live in
Yeah.
your home environment? And maybe you could put in some technical things like his breed, or how old was he when you got him? Things that are not directly connected with the 3
Okay.
topics.
Sure.
So that's a it's a tough one. Some things have a whole lot more miscellaneous information that you could draw from. Others are going to be a little bit tougher. But this is really the biggest reason as to why you want to write the introduction last, is because then you know what you have chosen and written about in the topic-based paragraphs. And sometimes you'll have an outline, you write from it, and then you either don't put something in or you add something else in. So there might be a few little leftover miscellaneous things that might fit into that background area. But the trick is to not be redundant.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's true with, stating the topics as well. And one thing that I mention, I hope I do in the seminar, I always teach it this way now, which is in the conclusion where it says restate the topics. I usually will try to say restate, or better, echo the topics, so that you are not using the exact same words each time.
Yeah.
So, if looks is one of your topics, then maybe you could say appearance, or what else could you have? Visage.
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Instead of food, you could have diet or nutrition or sustenance. So there are ways to help students, generally using a thesaurus-like tool, to state and then echo the topics without using too many of the exact same words. And that tends to help with the style a little bit. And of course, using the thesaurus usually helps you gain some better vocabulary, which may allow you to check off a strong verb or a quality adjective
without even realizing it at the time. That's true. All right. Well, that's a good segue to talk about the practicum then, because one of the biggest challenges that people face when we are looking at the submissions is getting a grip on how the introduction and conclusion state or restate your topics, but do not have topic clinchers. The body paragraphs have the topic clinchers. So that's one of the main things to kind of listen for as you're going through this week as he does the model. Everything we've talked about today is probably presented most entertainingly in your letter to Grandma that you go through on the board there. So listen closely and look at the examples. But topics are stated in the intro, restated in conclusion, but topic clincher only in the body paragraphs. Any whys on that, or is just go with the video for how we?
Well, I mean, the why is that an introduction and conclusion paragraph do not have topics.
Right. Okay.
They contain the stating 3 topics and restating 3 topics. Right. But the paragraph themselves doesn't have a topic sentence, so there's no clincher. So you don't do that. Instead, you indicate the 3 topics that are coming up. And I think the student samples in the book. And also, I would mention that teachers who would like to see more student samples can go to magnumopusmagazine.com.
Yep.
And they're all organized by unit. So you can actually see some student writing in Unit 7 or 8 that do that correctly.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing I would mention is that in the theme-based books, if you're going to teach through one of those this year, on the blue sheet in the front is access to additional files online. And in that grouping are the exemplars. These are not student samples.
Right.
These are actually written by us, trying to write a composition that shows very well how this assignment can be accomplished. And I think when you get to Unit 7 and 8 with the introduction, conclusion, not having topic clincher, but having the keywords of the 3 paragraph topics indicated, it's really easy to get that when you see more samples.
Yes.
And it's easier to teach it to students when you see more samples as well.
That's right. There's plenty in your seminar workbook. The other thing people miss, most. Most. Why do we want to see most in there?
Well, I kind of explained that more thoroughly in the Unit 8. where we kind of go through that pathway of developing the essayist. And in the beginning, an essay by definition, just to give a little preview, an essay by definition has to express the ideas, belief, or opinion of the writer. Well, in Unit 8, in the beginning, if you just are writing about animals or, states or something, how do you have an opinion?
Right.
That's not just, it's cute. So the idea of taking something from those written paragraphs, restating it, and explaining why. So of all that I told you about my dog or this restaurant or aliens from the planet Zoog,
there you go.
Of all that I told you, pick one thing. It can be a topic or it can be a detail inside a topic, but you pick one thing and then you say the most significant, most valuable, most important, most notable. It doesn't even matter what word comes after the most.
Sure.
That forces the student to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And why is part of the development of good essay writing, is
Excellent.
to explain why you think what you think. So this is I don't know, foreshadowing or preparing is a better word. Preparing the
stretching
students for that essay.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
All right.
And the other thing that we'll hit on these things again next week because they'll still be relevant. But sentence openers, one different sentence opener as possible. You'll notice that on this checklist this week, you do not have a minimum requirement for sentences. So when we say as possible, which you really shouldn't have a problem, he does instruct you to do the cotton balls essay. So just do the cotton balls. It's a great exercise. You may as well. I get some submissions sometimes where folks will just kind of take it on their own.
Do something else.
Isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll go through it as long as it's right. But do the cotton balls. Just
Well,
make it easier.
the cotton balls saves you work because
It
we
does.
do most of the outline together, right?
And then you have enough sentences for practicing because it's all about the practice. It's not just to make you do more work. But technically, there are no minimum requirements, just like you probably wouldn't do with your students for their first outing with inventive writing, meaning most of the checklist needs to be their sentence openers as possible, but it's going to be possible.
And so possible doesn't mean I could do it because I could. It's as possible, meaning how many sentences there are. So if there's 6 sentences in the paragraph, you have all 6 openers.
Better have them.
If there's only 5 sentences in the paragraph, then you only have 5, but they're all different.
That's right. And you better have everything else.
And if you only have 4, you're probably not saying enough.
Right.
But again, we're being more flexible, relaxing the rules a little bit. Likely, you're going to have more than 6 sentences in a paragraph, in which case the second part of the rule clicks in, no more than 2 of the same in a row.
So that's good. That's good. Okay. So that's your practicum. You'll actually have, you've got your keyword outline. Now, it doesn't say cotton balls, but again, go with cotton balls. It's fun. Work through. A lot of great feedback from the crowd that day.
Okay.
Then the nice big checklist there with everything on it. 5 paragraphs. Great exercise for everything that goes on. One thing I caught before we get into the gift certificates, you were talking about the exemplars, and someone asked the question in the videos about sharing student samples, about sharing some of those things. And I could see both sides where that may be intimidating for some students. Whoa, I could never write like that. But on the other hand, you've got something to model off of. We talk about Pablo Casals,
and the cello.
Yeah. So you would encourage that, the exemplars like we have in the theme-based books.
I would. I mean, I don't think a lot of students would look at it and think, oh, no, I can't do this well, so I might as well just give up and quit. I think most kids are like, oh, okay, so that's kind of what I'm shooting for, because that's what they're used to in life. But another approach, if you don't want to give the students a thing and talk about it, is you could actually do a whole Unit 7 paragraph or a whole 5-paragraph thing together with the kids. You get the outline, and then you just start writing the body paragraphs, and then you say, okay, we got to write a conclusion. Here's what's got to be in it. Can anyone think of a first sentence? And I think that group writing, while it seems a bit awkward and everybody's going to end with the same product, so it seems not particularly useful in terms of product, can be extraordinarily helpful in terms of modeling. This just do one whole thing together. And then when you say, okay, now you guys go do this, they have that real clear understanding, hopefully, of what they're getting into. So I have always found, and I say in the 4 Deadly Errors talk, don't be afraid to help too much, even if that means doing the whole thing together and then doing another whole thing together. And at some point, the student will say, okay, I got it. Leave me alone. That's, because that's their goal.
That's right. Well, that kind of goes with Marcy's question here. I'm curious about students' energy/joy level for writing as they go through this process. How do they generally feel about their writing by the time they get to Unit 7? Obviously, that'll vary per student.
Sure.
But...
Well, my answer to that is I don't care. I mean, the goal is not to make kids enjoy this.
You don't have to like
That's not the goal. The goal is to have them do it to a point where they can. And as I've talked about in various talks on motivation, one of the principles of motivation is kids like to do what they can do. But if you think I want to make this kid like it, you could fail. Right. Whereas if you just say, I want to make the student be able to do it and don't care if they like it or not, then everyone will have success.
That's right.
And the side benefit is they might possibly like it.
Somewhat. At least have a tasteful. Yeah, you don't push them the other way where they completely just detest it and they're gone. So,
I don't care if they detest it, honestly.
Well, that's the point. They can do it. That's the biggest thing. So thank you, Marcy. That's a great question.
And then the second corollary is they like to do what they can do.
That's right. Yeah.
And they want to do what they think they can do.
Right.
And that's where the magic of the easy +1 comes in. It's like,
right.
I can do all that, and I could probably do this one more thing.
Right.
And so they want to try.
That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. All right. Well, let's get to gift certificates. 2 $50 gift certificates. So maybe the theme-based books, Structure and Style for Students, or maybe you want to give a friend teaching writing structure and style. Pass on so that they can do what you're doing, or maybe
and the envelope, please.
The envelope there. We have 2 winners once again.
Well, we have Jessica Sibley in Tennessee.
Okay.
And Shar, I'm assuming it's Shar.
I think so. Maybe Shar. Shar.
Yeah. Sellers in Colorado.
All right. Congratulations.
So we'll be
emailing you a little later on. Anyone who'd like to sign up, if you haven't already, iew.com/great-adventure. On our Facebook page is where you'll be able to see everything going on about this, and Flat Andrew. The discussions page is where you can watch these videos if you want to send your friends there for more help. Your marching orders for this week: Unit 7, Video 7, the whole thing. You've got your Cotton Balls essay that you'll write, work through and enjoy that. The whole checklist, rough draft, keyword outline, rough draft, final draft, everything together. Save it for sending in if you'd like to become accredited. We'll talk about that in a few more weeks. We're almost there. We're almost through all
and
this.
This is a $50.
It's a $50
gift. And it's coincidental that the accreditation
is
processing fee is
$50.
So you could save your gift certificate for that.
That's
if you
right.
wanted to.
And for 2 years, you will be a registered instructor with IEW. So we'll talk more about that, but that'll be great. Next week, we'll have Unit 8, getting into the formal essay models. Got a number of things there. You'll be with me.
Home stretch here.
That's right. We're almost all the way through. Any questions you have, Great Adventure at IEW.com, info@IEW.com. Contact our great customer service team. If you're in a school, a 5-day-a-week setting, our schools division is ready and just excited to help you get going here with the last month and a half, I guess, before everybody comes back to the classroom.
Do you want a joke for the day?
Yeah, let's go for a joke for Unit 7.
There's this new couple just married, and they are apart for several days for the first time since they've been married. And the wife is very poetic, right? So she texts her husband and says, missing you so much. If you're sleeping, send me one of your dreams. If you're eating, send me a bite. If you're laughing, send me a smile. If you're crying, send me your tears.
Lovely.
Husband texts back, on the toilet, please advise.
I had a feeling we were going there. That's a good one for inventive writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll see you all next week, next Monday at noon Central. And get in touch if you have any other questions in the meantime. Bye-bye.